So we had the Joseph Parker Andy Ruiz weigh-in several hours ago ahead of their battle for the vacant WBO heavyweight world title. Parker weighed in at 246.7 pounds and Ruiz weighed in at 255.7 pounds. So Ruiz is exactly 9 pounds heavier than Joseph Parker. Both guys are weighing about the same as they've been weighing for recent fights. Looking at some of Andy Ruiz's recent training pictures, it appeared as though he was a lot lighter than he has been recently. And some people were concerned that maybe he'd lost too much weight. But maybe he was wearing a body shaper underneath his t-shirt or his tracksuit top, whatever he was wearing, to, squeeze all that fat in. Because he's turned up at the weigh-in looking like he's been for the past couple of years, weighing in the high 240s to the mid 250s. That's where he's been for quite a long time now. So I think any worries that Andy Ruiz won't be himself in terms of being drained or whatever, I don't think you need to be concerned about that. He's not going to be drained. He's the same as he was for his past few fights. In fact, I think he's actually a few pounds heavier than he was for his past couple fights. So I think that dispels that concern right there. And Parker himself weighs about the same as he's been weighing. The 240s, yeah, it's about normal for Joseph Parker. Now, I've seen some people say that neither guy looks in shape. Now, obviously, Andy Ruiz don't look in shape. But people are saying Parker don't look in shape. He looks fat. Well, Joseph Parker, to me, looks in good shape. You have to understand that a lot of the aesthetics of a person's body, particularly when you're talking about heavyweights, it just comes down to genetics, people. Joseph Parker actually talked about this in a documentary which is on YouTube. I'll try link it in the comment section below. There's a documentary on YouTube about this fight with Andy Ruiz. And Joseph Parker's talking about growing up, his brother also used to train. And he says his brother, when they started training, would be able to get ripped, shredded, a six-pack and everything, just in 2 weeks. But when Joseph would train, he'd be training for months and months and months, and he couldn't get the six-pack. It'd take him, it would take him several weeks anyway. It might take him 6-8 weeks or whatever, I think he said, to get the same results that his brother would get in 2 weeks. So it really is a genetic lottery. His brother got a better genetic mix in terms of metabolism and whatnot. So he finds it much easier to get ripped, whereas Joseph Parker probably trained harder than his brother and can't get ripped. So to me, Parker looks in similar condition to the condition he's been in for the majority of his career. I don't see any concern there. At the end of the day, Maori people, a lot of them, and this also goes for, Samoans, Maori people, a lot of them do carry, I don't want to say excess body fat, but it's a genetic trait of them to carry a bit of body fat. Yeah, to be muscular, but at the same time, not ripped with it. A lot of Samoans, Maori type people, they're like that. They don't necessarily have the most ripped physiques. Yeah, whereas if you go to certain places in Eastern Europe, people tend to be more ripped. You go to, places in Africa where a lot of black people find it very easy to get ripped. Okay, so it all comes down to a genetic lottery, and I wouldn't place too much emphasis on Joseph Parker. As long as he can do the rounds and he's not carrying ridiculous amounts of fat around him like Andy Ruiz is, then I wouldn't be concerned and think, oh, he hasn't trained hard or whatever. I'm sure Joseph Parker's trained extremely hard. Yeah. So yeah, the fight itself, definitely looking forward to it. Make sure that you check what time you're going to have to tune in, because the fight is in New Zealand. So the time difference between wherever you are and New Zealand may be extremely great. Yeah. So make sure you check that out. And yeah, I think this fight is going to be Very, very interesting indeed. It might even be the fight of the night. There's several fights happening across the world, big fights tomorrow night. And I think this might be the show stealer, at least in terms of the heavyweight fights. Definitely looking forward to it. So drop your comments in the comment section below, people. What do you think about how these guys looked at the weigh-in? And what are your final thoughts on the fight? Who do you think is going to win? Why do you think they're going to win? I think that Andy Ruiz is going to be very, very dangerous for Joseph Parker. And his trainer, Kevin Barry, I don't think he's talking hype and talking rubbish when he says that if the Joseph Parker that fought Carlos Takam turns up in the Ruiz fight, he's not going to beat Andy Ruiz. Now, I know some people are going to look at that and say, oh, he's just hype talking to sell tickets and whatever. And maybe there's an element of that. But I actually think he's correct. If Parker is only as good as he was against Takam, that's not going to be enough to beat Andy Ruiz. I think Andy Ruiz is a much more effective pressure fighter than Carlos Takam. He's probably not as defensively good as Takam because Takam is quite crafty defensively. He does know how to protect himself a lot of the time and avoid taking clean shots. Whereas Ruiz, if you look at particularly his fight against Tor Hamer, he can be very, very easy to hit. Alarmingly easy to hit, actually. But so far, he showed a very good chin. I've never seen Andy Ruiz remotely shaken by anything he's been hit with. And he has been hit by some pretty big athletic guys. And if there was any kind of chin issues there, you would have expected to see him at least wobble here and there. I'm not talking about his belly. I'm talking about his legs after getting hit on the chin. But I've seen no such thing. So even if Parker does manage to hit him, Ruiz is probably going to keep coming forward and coming forward and coming forward and attacking. I think it's going to be a very interesting fight. Definitely looking forward to this one. So let me not waffle on here, people. Just let me know how you feel in the comment section. It's your boy Hatman. I'm out.